We are back on the road again tonight with a load of hives, moving them to the blossom that means good honey. We're off to a new stand 100 miles away. We have to be there by daybreak. We Australian beekeepers don't all leave our hives in one spot. Some of us are moving all the time. Others make temporary moves when the home country blossom isn't satisfactory. We had a look at the stand a couple of days ago. The blossom was good, and we picked the exact spot for the hives. Now we put them out as fast as we can move them. The bees have to be freed before the heat of the day, or they'll be lost, drowned in melting honey. We get all the hives out, leveled and ready to open. Entrance boards go in place in front of the hives and the lids ready at the back. Everything's set so that we can get right out of the way as soon as the hives are open. A bit of smoke stops the bees flying out too quickly and losing themselves when the gauze blocks are taken out. After driving all night, a bed roll is as good as a feather mattress. We rush the rest of the opening, cut the binding wire, take off the gauze covers, put back the lids, and get out of the way quickly. When those bees come out, they're wild. Most Australian honey comes from tree blossom, not field or garden flowers. Yellow box, the Eucalyptus meliodora, is the best, and other eucalypts give us continuous blossom from spring to autumn. The yield varies with the season and district, but on average we get up to 360 pounds from each hive in a good year. All the hives are opened. The bees are going out after the blossom. Now we can take a spell. After a couple of days on the newsstand, we're settled in. Although we move our bee yards, they're much the same as anywhere else in the world, complete with breeding hives. Queen bees are imported from Italy, but we breed from them in Australia. When we need her, we take the queen to a honey hive in a wire cage. 4 or 5 workers go with her for company. A good queen will lay 2,000 eggs a day when needed, and hives get a new queen whenever egg laying falls off. The queen goes into the new hive. By the time she gets out of the cage, she's settled down, and the other bees in the hive are ready to accept her, so there is no break in the work of the hive. The pedigree of the queen and the number of the hive are noted so that we can check on the queen later. There's no general practice about wearing veils. Some of us do and some don't. Down in the valleys in the heat of summer, most of us reckon that sweating under a veil is worse than an occasional sting. The bigger hives with 3, 4, or 5 boxes are for honey, and extracting from them is a full-time job when the flow is good. The honeycomb is in the top boxes. The 2 bottom boxes are for breeding combs where the eggs are laid. We inspect them and put them back. A new box of empty frames for honey goes on top of the hive so that the bees have a chance to settle down inside. You've got to work fast. Take out the frames, shake the bees off, and brush the ones off that stick. Pass the frames over to the barrow. With all the frames out, the hive is closed, and the barrow goes off to the extraction tent. We carry reducers and extractors with us and set them up in a tent. When there's plenty of blossom, the bees don't worry us. But if they're looking for honey, we have to keep them out by closing the tent. The steam-heated knife takes the wax caps off the combs, and the wax falls into the reducer to be melted. The uncapped frames go over to the extractor, where the honey is taken from the comb. Empty combs go back to the hives for the bees to fill again. Wherever there's blossom enough for a good honey flow, you'll see the lorries on their way to the clarifying depot. Yearly production in Australia is up to about 25 million pounds weight, and it's increasing. It's impossible to build a house at every stop when you go to 5 or 6 different stands, so we live in tents or caravans when we're out in the bush 50 or 60 miles from the nearest town. The nearest river does for a bathroom and refrigerator. Most of our meals come out of tins: meat, vegetables, fruit. But there's usually some farmer near enough to supply occasional fresh meat and eggs for breakfast. In the summer, we need plenty to drink, and so do the bees. When the blossom gives out, there's no waiting for next season. We get ready to move the bees on, starting with packing the hives. We reduce the hives to 3 boxes and wedge the frames so that they won't rattle about and damage the bees. The boxes are squared, and a gauze lid goes on top. The reversed inner lid lets air into the gauze. Then we wire the hive tightly so that there's no danger during the move. And that's all until the cool of the evening. When the bees are all in, wire gauze blocks go in the entrances to keep the bees in during the move. Loading on the lorry goes to a set plan. Air space is left between the rows, and the reversed inner lids let air into the gauze covers of the bottom hives. And that's that. We're getting back on the road again, making for another honey flow. The blossom may be failing in one place, but other trees are flowering somewhere else. And wherever there's blossom, you'll find us with our lorries moving the bees.